Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of 2302 Counting. Woo, woo, woo! I'm your host, Professor Naragon, and I'm bringing you Chapter 15 homework. As we use the same book, many chapters, all good. So if you're expecting earlier chapters, that is 2301. I want to bring you the job process costing on how the homework is done and attempted, and trying to help you learn in the process as we go. So starting off, again, you either want to go through Blackboard or through the Connect site to access Chapter 15. Once you access this, we're going to start immediately with the first question, which of course Chapter 15 is all about journal entries. We love them, we love them, we love them. So with that being said, we're going to get into a lot of these questions that deal with these journal entries. So you want to probably have your notes handy, as the notes themselves give these journal entries. Okay, so I can actually look through all through around here to get the correct amounts. So starting off with question number one. Question number one starts with Clemens' car job cost sheet for job A40 shows the cost to add security features to the car was $20,500. So again, if you want to, you can hit print these out, underline, highlight, whatever you need to do. Always see what these numbers stand for. So I already know the $20,500 is cost. Okay, the car was delivered to the customer who paid $25,200 in cash for those features. So there's our sell. What journal entry should Clemens record on the completion and delivery of job A40? So first one, we have to record the transfer of the cost of the completed job to finished goods. I like how it already gave us finished goods. Okay, now remember, finished goods, work in process, all those are inventory accounts. When a job is completed, it's no longer in process. So since all these are inventory, they're all asset accounts, and they all increase by a debit. So since we know it's moving to finished goods has to be my debit account. Well, where did it come from? Well, we throw everything into work in process. So work in process is the next one. And then it is just the amount of the cost. So $20,500 for me. Now remember, your numbers are going to be different, so don't put in the same numbers. Okay? The key here, again, is for you to understand what is going on. Yes, you get help with the homework, but why is it like this? And of course, if I reference my notes, I can go right to here, and there it is. There's the journal entry, when jobs are completed. Boom. That's why it's always good to have the notes out too, to help with the homework. But and again, if you want to, you can always hit check my work. So, of course, it's going to say answer not complete. There's two more parts, but it's always good to double check. For me personally, with these kind, unless I know it's transferring to the next journal entry, sometimes it's just easier to wait till the end. I'll check them all and then just see what happened and what's wrong. So, record the cost of goods sold. So again, I can either go here and cost of goods sold and sales, probably because we're going to do that too. But these, if you know 2301, this is chapter 4, these journal entries. They're just back, we're just switching merchandise inventory with finished goods inventory. But it's the same concept that's going on when we sell something. So cost of goods sold, and and we know it's got to come out of our finished goods because it's no longer part of our inventory. It is gone. We lost ownership. So we get to now record these expenses. So it's going to be the same amount, $2,500, whatever my cost is. Okay. Remember, debits always go before credits, especially with Connect. In the real world, you can switch as long as it makes it to the end account properly. But for Connect, debits for credits. Alright. And then the third one, record sell price of delivery job paid. So this is our sell. What was our sell? Well, it was this amount right here. So usually we have accounts receivable. As you can see from your notes, it's usually accounts receivable because usually they buy it on credit. Well, as we see on this one, they actually bought it in cash. So they paid cash. So there is no accounts receivable. So we record the cash that we received of $25,200. We do our revenue account, which is sales, of the same amount, $25,200. Okay, so we record the sale, record cost of goods sold. Now, the question is, since these two accounts happen basically on the same date, because you record the sale and cost of goods sold, you can flip them. If you want to do the sale transaction first, you can do that first, or you can do the cost of goods sold transaction first. Either way is perfectly fine. Okay. So of course, again, always do check my work, find out everything's correct. We're good to go. Alright. So question number 2. Question number 2 states, during the current month, a company that uses job order costing purchased $70,000 in raw material for cash. Then it uses $16,000 of that raw material indirectly as factory supplies and uses $42,900 of raw materials as direct materials. Prepare journal entries to record these 3 transactions. So again, if I wanted to go right to the notes, I can go straight to the notes to the raw material section, which was like the first section we ever did. So right here, and actually go through. You can reread these, you can look at the journal entries if it helps you out. But first one is usually easy. We purchase the raw materials. So we get raw material inventory. Now, you just have to watch out, how did they purchase? Did they purchase on account or by cash? This one says by cash. So cash has to be my credit. If it was on account, then it will be accounts payable. And we put in 70,000 and 70,000. Alright, so there's our purchase of raw materials. This one is fairly easy. Again, the journal entries to these are not as hard as they seem. It's just knowing which account is used. Like this, the key word, indirectly. Anytime we see indirectly, that's immediately factory overhead. So that's going to be factory overhead. That's our overhead. And since it was raw materials, it has to come out of there because it's being used. So we have raw materials inventory. Let's see how much cost it was up here. It said it was 16,000. So 16, 1, 2, 3. Oh, added an extra 0. So 16,000. Awesome. Next one, we have to record direct. Now, the only difference between the indirect and the direct journal entries, besides the amounts, is what is being debited. Indirect, always overhead. Direct, it's going to be work in process. So, that's 42,900, 42,900. Alright, again, check my work, There we go. Okay, not too bad. So that's 2 questions out of magical 15. Woo, 15. Seems scary. Trust me, they're not. And also, in case you ever need some extra help, there is the hint button right here. And references and your good old-fashioned ebook. Use the ebook. Ebook is awesome. Woo woo. Alright. So, question 3. Has during the current month, a company that uses job order costing incurred a monthly factory payroll of $182,500. Okay. Of this amount, $500 is classified as indirect labor and the remaining is direct. Prepare the journal entries to record these transactions. Alright, so they gave us the direct. They gave us the indirect, but they didn't give us the direct. So we have to figure out this number. So the best thing is we're going to use our calculator. So we're going to take the total payroll, which was $182,500, and we're going to subtract what the indirect was, which happens to be $55,000. And it comes out to $127,500. Well, we know that is going to be my amount. Nothing's going to change. We just got to figure out the accounts themselves. Well, since I don't see anything that actually says paid, let's see if we got wages payable. And we do. Usually if I see cash is paid, then we know that it's cash because we paid the salary. Here, it just say incurred. Didn't say we paid it off. Didn't say anything. It just says incurred. So, right there, most likely it's going to be factory wages payable. Usually it will come out and say paid. So again, this is direct. Same thing as materials, or direct materials and indirect. The only one that we work with is work in progress when it's direct. When it's indirect, which apparently this shows here, that's going to be factory overhead. And of course, again, factory wages payable. And we want to put it for that $55,000 that I have in my problem. And boom. So again, I can look up in the notes. I can go find it if I need to. Here it is. There's direct labor. And of course, everything else. But we can always look this up. Not hard. It just takes us a little bit. Sorry, my sinuses are acting up right now. So, I guess tis the season, allergy season. But, here we go. Alright. So, part 4, we're coming along. Part 4 wants us to actually figure out, basically, the overhead rate. We want to put it that way, the predetermined overhead rate. So, we have a beginning of the year, company estimates the following manufacturer costs for the next period. Direct labor is probably going to be about $492,000. Direct materials is going to be $209,000, and factory overhead is going to be about $142,000. So we need to compute 1 for direct labor, and require 2 is going to be for direct materials. No problem here. Again, if I want to check my notes, I can actually find it right here. This is how we figure out. It's always estimated overhead cost divided by whatever estimated activity base. So on my notes, it's again always overhead. And since we're doing with direct labor, we can do estimated direct labor. Again, you can hit check my work to go through this. Make sure you pick the right one. Again, Connect only had 4 choices. It's easy to actually go through, but again, it's understanding what is going on. because you can do that with the homework on a quiz or a test. You can't do that. You have to know it. Okay? So, we just input our numbers. Overhead was 4,200. Direct labor was 49,223. And we find out that our overhead rate is just 29%. So required 2 has us doing the same thing. So estimated factory overhead, this time, since this is for direct materials, we're going to estimate direct materials, still 4,200, 209,123. So the overhead rate, if we use direct materials, it's a lot higher at 68%. This basically means whatever our jobs are, we're going to have to times it by this rate. So again, like I said, double check. We know required 1 and required 2s are okay. Again, if I just want to check my notes, it'll let me check that too. Alright. So far, nothing too bad. Here we go. Okay, so number 5, we need to figure out overhead applied to job 65A. Okay, so this is what we're asking. So let's go with the question asked. So at the beginning of the year, a company predicts total overhead cost of $614,900. The company applies overhead using machine hours and estimated it was going to use 1,430 machine hours during the year. What amount of overhead should be applied to job 65A if the job only uses 16 machine hours? Alright, so just like with 4, this one had 2 money items, 2 cost, dollars and cents. This one still has this dollar amount for overhead, but it has machine hours. This is still finding out predetermined rate. So with this, we take our estimated overhead cost, which again we take out our calculator, 614,900, and we're going to divide it by whatever the machine hours were, total machine hours. So 1430. So it says on basically each machine hour, because that's what this stands for, is worth $430 to us. So if the job 65A takes 16 of those machine hours, so take the 430 times the 16, says we need to probably put $6,880 in overhead to that job. So 6, let me make sure, yep, and boom, your answer is correct. So this one, you had to do a couple of steps that were outside of what basically we can fill in. So just remember, always divide your activity hours into your overhead costs if we're trying to figure out how much we should allocate overhead to the job. Okay, so again, that's basically doing this step right here on your notes, and then times it right here, actually applying the estimate. Alright, question 6. We're brought back to our rate, so let's see what we got on this question. At the beginning of the year, a company predicts total direct material cost of $950,000 and total overhead cost of $1,190,000. If the company uses direct materials cost as an activity base to allocate overhead, what is the predetermined rate? So with this one, again, notice that it's a little bit different, but still estimated overhead cost. Denominator is going to be my direct materials, because that's my activity base. So we're still using the same formula right here. Or you can go back to question, what is it, 4, that went back over it. So with that, now, it's already given us all of our information. We just fill it in. Make sure you add enough zeros. And boom, connect. We'll still fill it in for you on the answer. But this time we have a whopping 125%. So sometimes they can be real small, if it's probably a small job or a small business. And if it gets into bigger businesses, you're going to notice that the percentage rate is going to probably usually be over 100%. If it's a big business. Small businesses, you probably see it more close to less than 100%. Alright. So I doubt there's any questions, but we're going to keep going. If you do have a question, you're more than welcome to put comments down below or actually email me one. I'm more than happy to answer. If we have lots of comments below, I'll probably do a separate video going even further into detail. Okay? Probably more examples and more fun. Alright. So question 7. On March 1st, a dressmaker starts working on 3 custom design wedding dresses. The company uses job order costing and applies overhead to each job dress at a rate of 49%. So close to 50. Of direct material cost. During the month, the jobs use direct materials as shown below. Compute the amount of overhead applied to each of the 3 jobs. Alright. So this one's a little bit easier. Since we're only trying to allocate overhead that's been applied, all we do is take our rate and times it by whatever the job is. So, job 1, make sure it's on there, 5,400 times 0.49. Again, you need to convert the percentages into decibels. It helps out, it makes life a little bit easier. So, with that, it says my actual allocated rate should be 2646. Okay, job 2, doing the same thing, 7,400 times 0.49 equals to 3626. Okay, and last job, we just do the same thing to 931. Again, always check my work, make sure you're doing the math correct, and we are definitely right on the money. So, all that one is just basically allocating your rate. So, again, if you got questions, besides leaving a comment, you can always hit the hint button. Those are great also. Right. So, question 8. Question 8's got 2 parts to it. Basically, we're going to have to prepare the entry to close over or under applied overhead of cost of goods sold. We got this like view transaction list, which basically is nothing. I don't know why it's there. They like to add those every now and then. So first thing we have to do is figure out our factory overhead. Now, like Connect loves to do, it actually wants to use the label. So everything that's on the debit side of factory overhead is going to be actual overhead. Everything on the right side is going to be basically overhead applied. Okay, so debits, actual, credits is applied. Again, if I want to check my notes, we should have it right there. actual, applied. Okay, and it also gives us a journal entry. So we may want to check on this when we finished the actual T-chart. T-account. Okay. So company allocates overhead at a rate of 160% of direct labor cost. Actual overhead cost for the current period is $1,150,000 and direct labor cost is $580,000. Determine whether there is an over or under applied overhead using the T accounts below. But first off, we only have one blank, we don't have one there. So naturally it's probably going to favor something over here. Then we're going to have to do the journal entry. So first off, 1150, 1, 2, 3. We input the actual. So actual overhead was $1,150,000. It did give us to us. But direct labor, we actually have to calculate. So go into our calculator. We have 580,000. And that's going to be multiplied by our direct labor cost rate. So since this is 160, remember decimal is from the percentage rate, moves over right twice. This is actually 1.6. So we're going to go to our calculator, put in 1.6, enter, and we should allocate our overhead applied of 928,000. Alright, so to me this really does look like it's been under applied, and we can definitely see here our actual is greater than our applied. So yes, our overhead is under applied. So again, anytime that this side's bigger than this side, it's under, because we're going to have to boost it up by a credit. So under applied. Now if it was the other way around, which I think question 9, which we're going to get to, then that's over applied because this side's greater. So we'll get into those. Connect just gives you a freebie by actually only putting the blank right here. Of course, you can hit check my work. Notice that everything's correct. So that allows us to move to the journal entry. So now we got to record the entry to close, over, or under applied. The only journal entry that happens, the only two accounts here, is always going to be factory overhead and cost of goods sold. And basically it's just we're adjusting factory overhead and adjusting cost of goods sold to the actual cost that happened. Because we either overestimate or we underestimate. Here we underestimated it. So we know to get this to 0, since it's already a debit, we must credit factory overhead. So that means we must debit cost of goods sold of the 222,000. Because again, I got that number right here, and we're trying to make it 0. So again, if you just want to see the journal entry, see how it was done, here in your notes, here it is. There's the journal entry right there. Of course, you gotta get used to it. So keep an eye on it. Again, always hit check my work after you're done, just to make sure it says answer is complete and correct. Alright. So again, question 9, we have the same thing going on. We're going to have our actual overhead. We're going to have our applied overhead. Now it says applied overhead instead of overhead applied. Connect likes to switch it up just to be a little bit funny, but they automatically tell us in our problem already debits are 632,000, credits are 756. So all we have to do is insert that, So again, now I can see that my overhead, my credit is bigger. So that means we definitely over applied our estimate. Oh, wrong one. Over applied. So when we do the journal entry for here, basically it's going to look just like this journal entry, except flipped. Because now, to get this to 0, we have to debit this account. So, factory overhead and credit cost of goods sold of the 124,000. So again, I got that number from our T-chart, what the balance was, since we're trying to zero it out. So check. Everything's good. Awesome sauce. We can move to question 10. Alright, so question 10 is going to be making all the stuff we've already done in the prior questions. It's jamming it all together. So let's go quickly through the basic journal entries again. So first one, record raw materials purchased on account. On account. So we take our ownership of our inventory, and since it's on account, it's going to be accounts payable. We later owe these people the money for the raw materials. So we're going to look at our chart. Our raw materials was 83,400. So 83,400, 83,400. Boom. There we go. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 says record the entry to assign direct materials to jobs. Okay. So direct materials used in production. Well, again, it is direct, so that has to be that work in process. And of course, we credit raw materials. That's where it's coming from. It's basically, again, another inventory to an inventory account. So let's see, it was 53,800 that went over. So 53,800. Alright. Question 3. Now we assign the direct labor. So assign the direct labor. We already know that has to be work in process. Let's see if they paid in cash. No, it just looks like factory wages earned. So I don't see anything that's actually saying cash. It just says assigned to. So we're going to use factory wages payable. Again, this can be iffy. Just have to kind of read what it says. Since it says assigned direct labor, that seems more like the payable. Again, if it says paid, then I will probably figure more cash. So 17,300, since that's right here for my factory wages earned. And the last one is just record factory overhead applied. Okay, so again, work in process and factory overhead. So when we applied, again, factory overhead is always a credit. When it's the actual, factory overhead is a debit. So it's 135% of direct labor cost. So I got to find my direct labor, which of course is right above it. Yay, making it a little bit easy. And then we're just going to multiply the two. So 17,300 times 1.35. Again, percentage in the decimal form. You do not want times by 135 because it's going to give you a huge number. So overhead is 23,355. So 23,355. 23,355. Check. Let's see all journal entries. All of them are correct. We are good to go. We're going to move on. Alright, so question 11. Again, multiple accounts, multiple journal entries that we got. This time we have 9 journal entries that we're going to end up doing. So let's start it off. Again, the purchase. Purchase again. This time again it's on account. So we know that journal entry has to be raw materials, accounts payable, 110, 123. Now these questions that do repeat, basically from prior questions, I would suggest to go ahead and just either pause the video, try and do these comprehensive ones on your own, and then kind of come back to the video and see how well you did. I mean, of course you have check my work, but try and do it without check my work. See how much you know before you hit it. Okay? Number 2, we're going to record the direct materials that were used. So again, work in process is always for direct, and raw materials, since it is dealing with materials in itself. And we find out that it is 44,500. 44,500. Okay. Question 3. Now we record indirect. So same journal entry, except it's dealing with factory overhead. And this one is 20,000. So notice that it does have the transaction as B1, B2. If that's so, they're taking B1 right here, B2 here. So that's where I'm getting the numbers. Okay, just going down the list. 4. Record the uses of direct and indirect labor paid in cash. Okay, so we paid cash for our factory overhead, basically our payroll. So first one, we want to record work in process. Notice it does want us to do both in one go. So our direct labor, which is our work in process, is 3,200. We have factory overhead, and that's going to be for my indirect, which was only 8 grand. And since we paid in cash, will be cash for that 40,000. Okay. Again, always double check. Does my debits balance? Yes. If I add those two, they are perfectly in balance. We're good to go. Transaction 5. Record other actual overhead cash paid. Well, other overhead costs paid in cash. Alright. So since this is actual overhead, factory overhead gets the debit, cash gets the credit, and it's going to be for the 8875. 8875. So that's my actual overhead cost. It's probably again for rent and utilities and all that fun jazz. Okay. 6. Now we record the applied overhead rate. Let's see, what is it to? Oh, direct labor cost. So again, applied overhead is going to be work in process with factory overhead. Okay. Remember, applied is always a credit to factory overhead. Actual is always a debit. So with this, we need to figure out the amount. So we're going to find our direct labor, and it was 32,000. So 32,000. Again, multiply it by our rate. This was 125%, are known as 1.25. And so we actually have 40,000. Cool. I like even numbers. It makes it easy. So 40,000, 40,000. Okay. Question 7. Now we get to record cost of job complete. So F, states transfer cost of jobs completed to finished goods was 72,000. So since it's moving from work in process is going down. So that must mean it must get a credit. Finished goods, it's going up because now it's out of process, it's complete. So the cost associated is that 72,000. Okay, so I can already tell 8 and 9 are going to be two different jobs. So the first one is doing the cost of the job sold. So again, that just basically means the cost is now heading to cost of goods sold because the job was sold. And it's going to always be the cost right there, 72,000. And since it's moving out of finished goods, that one is our credit. We no longer own that. So since we no longer own, again, inventory, since it's an asset, gets credited. Okay. And last, we just do the sell. Again, the sell's on account. They didn't pay us cash. So that means they owe us money. So it's like giving out that bill, but we still have to record the revenue. So we did make a profit, which is awesome sauce. We love to make profit, because if you don't, you're probably going to be out of a job soon. So gotta make the money. Again, always check my work, and make sure your entire journal entry is good. Let's check something. This is now saying answer is not complete. Did we miss something? I did. Look at that. I missed a journal. I was talking about it and I didn't put it in. And that's our cash right there. So we'll go ahead and fix that real quick. So that was, which one? Right here. So, and that's why you always check. Double make sure. I just happened to be talking about it and I just forgot to put it in. But there it is, and now it's completely incorrect. Again, you're going to notice that Connect does not put an X or a check mark in the item that's missing. They just leave it blank. So always be prepared for that. Again, that's why I like to say answer is complete and correct. Okay, so 12, 13, and 14. They all are together. They run the same. So they're going to use the same information up here. Okay? So we just have to kind of put them together as they go. So first thing, we have Marcelo Co. And they show us March 31st, our inventory of raw materials is 84,000. But raw material purchased in April was 540,000, and payroll cost in April is 382,000. So already I can tell this is my beginning inventory for April. So you gotta be watch out on that. Alright. So overhead costs incurred in April, ours follows with indirect materials, labor, rent, utilities, and equipment depreciation. The predetermined overhead rate is 50%. Nice. I love it when it's 50%, or 75% or 25%. Those numbers are just a lot easier to actually work with. And we're going to look at job 306, actually sold for 700,000 cash. Cost of 3 jobs are worked is below for April. Alright. So, first thing we got to do is we're going to fill in the beginning goods in process. We have 3 scenarios right here. 2 of these started in March, 1 hasn't. The one that hasn't is easy. It's a 0. But we must add these up. So 28,000, 24,000, 12,000. So 28, 24, 28,000, 24,000, 12,000. We should have 64,000. Okay, do the same thing with 307. We calculate 41,000 plus 18,000 plus 9,000. I think that was the third one. Yeah. So we have 68,000. So our actual goods in process, our work in process, was 132,000 at the end of March. So cost of manufacturing, basically that's what's going on. Next, judging this, we have to determine the applied overhead. So right here, it's all blank, so it doesn't help me any. So we gotta look up here. It says 50% of direct labor cost. Alright, so we're going to look at direct labor cost. For us, it's right here. Can't highlight it, but you can look it up here too. And we're just going to times by 50%, or take about half of it. So some of these are easy to do in your head. Like that one should be 51,000. 153 divided by 2. You're looking at around 76,500. No, yeah, 76,500. Did that one in my head, but let's go ahead and do that on the calculator. Yeah, 76,500. Cool. And then another 102. So that's another 51,000. Alright. So now our total cost. So our total cost is going to be the addition of what happened in April plus what happened in March. So 289,123 plus 64,000. And total cost is 353,000. Ooh, they spent. And then job 307 is the same way, except more. So we have 449,500 plus 68,000. 517,500. 449,500. Make sure, yeah. Okay, and then the last one is really easy. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so there's our total cost as of April 30th. And next, they just want to say, where would cost be included in? Well, once a finished good is sold, we know that the cost goes in cost of goods sold. When it's unsold and still processes next one and it's finished, that stays in finished goods inventory until it's sold. And if it's in process, it's work in process. So that means we still got work to do on this job. Again, hit check my work. And on these questions that are the chain gang, because I can see it down here, if they're the chain gang, always make sure once you finish one, check it to make sure it's complete and correct, because most likely it's going to transfer to the next question. So everything's good. Okay, so now that we got this one done and we already checked it out, we can now move on to question 13, which all deals with journal entries. I don't know why it has no transaction. Seems like Connect kind of said I did it. I don't know how, but anyways, it's just basically our journal entries as we go. So first one, of course, again, is to record the purchase of materials. So that journal entry, as we already know, is raw materials inventory. And of course, it's on credit. So accounts payable. We're going to find right here how much we purchased. And the purchase was 540,000. So 540, 1, 2, 3. 540, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have 540,000 completely. Next one, question 2. We end up having direct materials. As we know already, direct materials is going to be work in process. Always goes to work in process. And since it's coming out of raw materials, thing is we don't know the number. Now, we can do it two ways. We can either basically add these all up, or since it's already been done in question 12, we can do it on question 12. Look at direct materials, and our number is 461,000. So going back here, hit X. So question 2, 461,000. And the reason why Connect already basically added it all up for us in this one, April tolls, so we already know it's 461,000. Alright, X. Okay, number 3, record direct labor paid. So again, direct labor, work in process. Since this has been paid, we do it in cash. Again, let's go back. Direct labor paid in April was 357,000. So 357,000. 357,000. Well, I'm either losing a zero or adding a zero, one way or another. Alright, so far so good. Nothing too hard, still the same as before. Here, this is indirect. So when it's indirect, everything goes to cash, well, to the factory overhead. And since we already know we've paid this, it is cash. And we can just look up here, because all of our costs are right here. Now, of course, we're going to have to do a journal entry for each one of these. So our indirect material, or is this cash? Or labor? No, this is labor. Okay, so indirect labor was 25,000. So since we paid for this, it is cash. So get a total of 25,000. Okay. Next one, 5. Record the entry for overhead cost applied to work in process inventory. So work in process, factory overhead. Again, all these journal entries you can either find on your notes if we need to, or to go actually in the previous questions that we've already basically solved for the journal entries. All we have to do is put in a number. Here, again, we're looking at applied overhead. So we had 178,500. Always love it when they add for us. So 178,500. Okay, question 6. Record the cost of indirect materials used. Okay, again, we know that's factory overhead. And since the materials, it's going to be raw materials inventory. We look up here, and it was 56,000. Okay, so far so good. Nothing too crazy going on. Alright, number 7. Record the cost of factory utilities paid in cash. So with this, you take the utilities, which was 22,000. And again, it's factory overhead, because anything that deals with the factory is going to the overhead. Now, we may want to put a note if we can add a note to say what this is, so that in case we want that traceability, we can find it. Cash. And that cost us 22,000. So once you got the journal entries down, it actually ends up being a lot quicker. So again, factory overhead, since we know the 3 categories from prior chapters, or chapter 14, it's the only prior chapter we really have, it starts to become a little bit easier of what's going on. So depreciation, remember, it's always accumulated depreciation. That was way back in 2301 was accumulated depreciation. So again, we must record it. So 53,000 right there. Okay. Next one, question 9. Record the factory rent. We paid it in cash. Rent was 40,000. So again, factory overhead. We paid in cash. That 40,000. Again, since it's related to the production of the of the product, and we're not allowed to really recognize that expense until we sell that product, that's why we have any kind of expense going that would have been an expense go to factory overhead. So there we go. Now we record the transfer of jobs 306 and 307 to finished goods inventory. So when we're recording anything going to finished goods, you need to use finished goods, not work in progress, as the debit. We do the work in process as our credit. But again, Connect likes it in debit first. But we don't know this amount. We'll have to go to question 12. And in our calculator, we're going to take basically the total cost right here, 353,000 and 517,500. We're going to add those two together because both of those move to finished goods. So 353,000 plus 517,500, double make sure, good, equals 870,500 went to finished goods. So back to question 13. And 9, 10, there we go. So 870,500. Coolio. Alright, let's move to 11. 11 is now recording the cost of goods sold of job 306. Job 306 was the only one that actually was sold. So with this, we have to debit cost of goods sold because now we get to recognize the expense, and we're going to take it out of finished goods because one, we don't have the ownership anymore of that inventory. It's gone, and it was the first number 353,000. So 350. So it's good when you actually got the calculator still showing. If you don't have the calculator showing, go to question 12, and boom, there it goes. The only one that sold, job 306. Our total cost was that 353,000. Okay, 13's almost done. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now we record the actual revenue of the job. So when we sell it, we already know we're going to check to see if we got cash or was on credit. So here said it was sold for 700,000 cash. So we received the cash of 700,000, which means it's a good payday. I mean, that's almost getting close to double what we took us for to pay for it, or to basically cost. And of course, sales of 700,000. Alright, so now we run into doing the journal entry for overhead. So with our overhead, now we can actually do this. Let me go ahead and clear this out. This was from an older problem. So file, new image. Alright, so when we're doing factory overhead, biggest thing that we want to do is make our T-chart. So here's our fancy T-chart. I know, looks great. And I'm just going to put fact over just to save some time, because you're probably already tired watching this and you don't want to see me try and spell on a paint product. Alright, so with this, we're going to take that factory overhead and we're going to actually look at, basically, you need to do check my work. First off, I'll always tell you to do check my work. Reason why is basically it'll let you know if you're already correct before we get to this step. And you can hit return. I like to see the general journal without all the check marks. It's just easier for me to see. If you like all the check marks, it works. Looks like I missed one, so we'll go back. Again, I missed one. I guess I'm going a little bit too fast. Let me fix that. Which one was that? 4. That should have been cash. Always make sure you click on it. So check. Again, it's going to say answer is not complete because we don't have 13 in. So with this, let's find all of our factory overhead. So boom, boom, boom. There's factory overhead right there. Okay. View general journal. Put me back on that. Don't click on it. Okay. But we're going to find factory overhead. Here's 25,000. That's a debit. So of course we're going to put 25,000 right here. Alright. Move on to the next one. So E has it. They have a credit of 178,500. Alright. Keep going. Next one. There's factory overhead of 56,000. So again, 56. So as you see, I'm just putting in everything into my T-chart. This way I can tell which side is bigger, which side is going to be lower, or basically if it's been over applied or under applied. There's my next one. So 22,000. Okay. 53,000, and it looks like 40,000. That's it. So 53. And then good old fashioned 40,000. Gotta make up that rent. Okay. So next step is basically adding all my debits and credits if I had more than one credit number, so that we can get a good comparative of what's going on. So pop out the calculator. 25,000 plus 56,000 plus 22,000 and 53. Whoop. And 40. So we have 196,000. So 196, and then you can easily see Which side's greater? So this side's greater. That means we under-applied our actual our applied overhead. So next job is just subtract the 2. So 196,000 minus 178,500 equals out to 17,500. So another reason why I do this is because when we're doing over applied and under applied, we only affect 2 accounts: factory overhead and cost of goods sold. So if I know I gotta bring this down to 0, I have a debit balance right now, means I have to credit this account to make it to 0. So that makes life easy for us. So I go right to here. We already know we have to credit because we're under applied of that 17,500, if I remember right. Yep. And that means cost of goods sold gets the same amount, 17,500. Okay. So with that being said, again, we can look at our actual chapter. There's our notes right there, again showing us what to do. And there we go. Okay, so that's it on question 13. Again, check my work, make sure it says answer is complete. Complete and correct. Cool. So 14 comes around. 14 is our cost of goods manufactured. So again, we want to put in how we get manufactured costs. This is related to chapter 14. So of course we have direct labor, direct materials, and applied overhead. Find applied overhead. Okay. There we go. Factory overhead applied. Okay. Then of course we always know we add beginning. So add our beginning and we less our ending. Okay. So all these numbers we can actually find either through the journal entries themselves or with question 12. So at question 12, first off I want to find direct labor. Direct labor was 357,000. So 357,000. Material used was 461,000. And then overhead applied. So it's nice when they give you the totals. You can just look at, once again, the 178,500. Alright, so now we find our beginning work in process. So let's go back to 12. So beginning work in process was these 2 jobs were still in process. So it already totals it up for 132,000. Okay, now we subtract out the work in process. So right here, we're going to look at the ending. Notice that these 2 again, they're in finished goods. They're no longer in work in process. So my only ending balance should be the 258,000. So again, my total is going to be that 870,500, which should have moved to finished goods. Okay, so there we go. Repeat of chapter 14. Alright. 15, last question. Let's knock it out. So 15, what looks like was supposed to be a chain question, because it looks like we did have stuff for journal entries. But here, I just want you to do basically a job cost sheet. So this is easy. We're going to actually look at these charts and we're just going to fill them in. So starting off with chart 1, this is all about materials. So we have 50,000 for Job number 136, because that's the amount right there. 137, 34,000, 138, 20,200. Job 139, 22,600. Job 140, 6,800. Labor, we do the same. 12,100. 10,500. 38,100. 39,000. And then 3,200. Okay, last part is overhead. So let's find out what overhead is. So we're going to use the predetermined overhead rate of 200,000 of direct labor costs. It's right there also. So basically 200% is 2, so times it by 2. Now you can use your calculator or you can use mental math. So 12,100, that's 24,200. For this, 21,000. Here we have 76,200. 39,000 is 78,000. And last one, 6,400. Okay. Again, hit check my work, make sure everything's complete, everything's good. So that's it for chapter 15. So if you have any questions, again, you're more than welcome to leave a comment, or you can send an email, and everything's good. So I'll look forward to you in the next exciting video of Accounting 2302. Alright, see y'all later.